Can I start?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Manuel Gaggiano. I'm going to present the paper made by Elia Papadopoulou and Gregorios Sinorios, and he talks about democratization and growth. It was made in 2008, and it was published in the Journal of Economics. So, with their research, they try to answer to this question, that is, will democratization bring economic growth? And this question was made in The Economist, the journal, and in 2003, and they try to answer through 4 points. The first one is the theory, and it's really important because through the theory, we have to understand why we are doing this research. So the second one is the democratization data, because they will use data that are going from 1960 to 2003. So we have to understand what are inside the data. And after, we are going to point out the result and some conclusion and talk about that. The theories are the skeptical approach, the development approach, and the institutional approach. The skeptical approach point out the inefficiency of representative government. The development approach point out the representative institution contribute to growth, and the institutional approach point out how colonial institutions can influence economic and political development. The last one is the most recent one, and was made in 2005 by Johnson and Achenello. We are going to analyze that 3 theories with 3 quotes that for me are really important and summarize the 3 approaches that they studied before to do the data analysis. The democracy is a sharing form of government full of variety and deserve. There is a quote by Plato, and I choose him to describe the skeptical approach to democracy. And going back to our times, because of course from the ancient Greece to today there are huge differences, but the skeptical approach point out the sharing form of government. That means in democracy, politicians will need to be re-elected. So the main goal of a politician is different from the main goal of society, to guarantee an optimal redistribution of income and to guarantee the optimal rate of growth. So this is why the theorists that are skeptical thinks about democracy. The democracy is a universal value from Amartya Sen. It means that the universal value of democracy is that, okay, we have politicians, but the politician represent what is demanded by the population. So it's not a completely mechanism approach, and it has not to be completely negative. So through the democracy, the economy can grow faster, because also about the political aspect, we are talking about also a concept of the market. And the theorists that are in this set thinks that democracy can fit completely with the neoclassical idea of market. Any difference in economic performance can plausibly be attributed to difference in institution. Is a quote by Achenello and Johnson, that are 2 researchers by Harvard University, and in their paper in 2005, they attribute every difference to difference in institution. And I put the graph here. This line is the South Korea, and that line is North Korea. As everyone knows, after the Second World War, the Korea was divided in 2 blocks. One that was influenced by the USA, and it's the South Korea, and one that was influenced by the Soviet Union. This is the North Korean. As we can see, the difference is huge. But this problem, and the problem that I'm going to point out, is the problem about data. That, for example, in the Soviet country are really difficult to find, and sometimes they not correspond to reality. So, what are democratization data? We are going to restrict our period of time in the 3rd wave of democratization with 4 fundamental rules and questions that the authors asked to do themselves. The first one is where the legislative or presidential election free and fair, where the civil liberties and political rights respected, was the franchise of inclusive for the majority of the population, did the elected official enjoy real government capacity. The other step to build our dataset will be the use of other indexes as the FH and the polity indicator to classify our countries, identify the nature of each transition, and the 5-year stability condition. That is really important because, as everyone knows, after a revolution there will be a period that some form of government are changing each other and confusing. So with this condition, they stabilize their dataset. And the last one is the grouping, so a creation of a dummy variable with a different classification of and the classification is made by 174 countries. The first one are the full, there are 39, 34 are partial, and 6 are borderline, made by the historical change and the historical work that is behind it. For me, it's very important. And the non-reforming countries are being classified in always democratic, always autocratic, and always intermediate. We are going to analyze the unconditional effort and the conditional effort of democratization and growth. The unconditional effort will be only the effect of democratization on the GDP. And we have to study, through this study we discovered that the annual growth can accelerate by 0.70% to 1.1% relative to the absence of a regime change. Adding the vector of country variables that we have studied before, the effect is 0.89, but the significance level increase. The significant levels of these studies are really important because, as we are going to see, it's really difficult to point out a scientific work about democratization that is something that is completely abstract, and to measure it with a strong significance level. The results are really like with other literature with unconditional effort, so nothing new. But the main point for me is the conditional effort. And this question is why they study the conditional effort. Is the growth forced by democratization or by accumulation of human capital? And with the conditional effort, we are going to add to the variable that we have studied before, so democratization and growth, the standard growth covariates. For example, investment, school, life expectancy, government, consumption, trade share, that will be the control variable in the regression. And after the transition to democracy, we have noticed that the trade share has always increased because democracy is more fit more with the open market, as I said before. The government consumption decreased, the years of schooling increased, the life expectancy increased, and investment as well. These are dates that I found in the appendix of the paper, and as we can see, as I said before, we have the government consumption decrease, and schooling years, and investment as well. But the model in the table shows that the effect of democratization on growth does not appear to work through that element. So the investments, life expectancy, government consumption, trade share are a little bit value compared to the growth of a country after the transition. So democratization impacts growth through institutional improvement. And this is, for me, the most important result of this paper. And it's shown also in this graph. We are distinguished partial versus full democratization, and the authors say that is not completely clarified and not completely transparent. But as everyone can see, the transition between democracy to autocracy to democracy will be after a period of recession, and after a brief time of instability, there will be a growth that is on average higher than than in the period of autocracy. The conclusion. Democratization leads to almost 1% increase in real annual GDP. These findings support the development theories, and democracy is not a panacea. That means that democracy is not the best, but at least is the one that fits more with capitalism. And this, for me, is really fundamental, because the author understand that studying different countries, and there are like 174, there were a huge difference between different countries. So after the transition, someone goes in a period of bad recession, and someone were. So we point out with that okay, democracy is not enough. What we need is a political reform that are the most important point to grow faster our economy. And thank you for your attention. If someone has any questions.
Can you go back to the slide, that one,
Okay.
that one, no, the one after this one. So that is the
Partial democratization and full democratization.
So the full democratization doesn't do much.
Doesn't do much more,
So
but
the
on average they say
The
on the paper.
the vertical axis is what? Is the average or the estimated?
Yeah, I know, but maybe the point they said on average it would be greater on the article. I was pointing out also that and at the end they say that it's not completely clarified the difference between partial and full, because they use it to classify the FH and where is it? The FH and quality indicator.
Yeah. But those are the vertical axis measures the extent of growth.
Yes.
Before and after that one.
Yes.
Before. So the event of democratization is
Yes.
1 or T.
And this is the T.
T, yeah.
And we have 10 years before and 10 years after.
Yeah. Okay, so just wanted to check on the difference.
Yeah.
Any more questions, anyone? Okay, thank you.